Hello friends, Mr. Depsick here, teaching with a mask on, trying to get used to what that's going to feel like since that's what we're doing for however long we're doing it for. And I want to use today to talk about two different things. I want to clarify how truth tables work, what they're for, and I want to teach you guys what a tautology is. So I'm on page 8 of our note pack. We're going to talk about tautologies. For this year, I'm never going to have you guys set up truth tables by yourself. So like all of this stuff we're not going to worry about. But just for one video, I am going to talk to you about how I am setting it up and how I'm using it and what its purpose is. So the idea of a truth table is to let you look at every possible value, every possible combination of trueness or falseness for any statement you're dealing with within any statement that has multiple things happening. And so this statement, it's kind of hard to even think of an example of what this would sound like. But here's a pretty involved statement, and I want to make a truth table for it to figure out all possible values this might take on based on what the individual statements inside of it include. Now, how many independent statements are in this statement itself? Just two. We just need to worry about the value for m and the value for n, and everything else inside of this statement, as crazy as it is, only involves m's and n's. There isn't like a third statement, k or p or anything like that. So all truth tables start with making sure you have a column for any statement that might show up in your compounded statement. And you want to look at all possible combinations of truth or false for those statements. So if I have one statement m and one statement n, it's possible that m is true and n is also true, or m can be true and n can be false. And if I only have two statements, m and n, this covers all possibilities for when m is true. But of course, it's also possible that m might be false. So it could be the case that m is false and n is true, or m could be false and n could also be false. So this covers all possibilities for when m is false and what could happen with n. And overall, I have every possible truth value for m and n. There's nothing else that could possibly happen. Now what I want to do next, ultimately, I want to figure out what is happening with this statement. So I want to get to a place where I'm saying, what happens with not m implying not n, implying not m and n. So I want to figure out what this is in all possible scenarios. So this gives me everything that might happen. And I want to work my way over to here so I can see what's going to happen with this for all possible scenarios. What I'm going to have you guys do in class always is I'm going to fill in this part of the table for you, and I'm going to fill in this top part for you as well. But when you have somebody else fill it out for you, it's difficult to understand what's happening. So the general idea is you never want to be having to think about more than one thing at a time. So looking at the truth of this over here, just using these values can be very confusing. So we want to take it one step at a time and make a column for each thing that we might need. For example, let's start with the idea that ultimately I want to figure out what not m implies n is. Well, before I can even figure out what not m implies not n is, I need to know what not m is, I need to know what not n is, and I need to know, then I can figure out what overall this is. So I'm going to make a column for this and a column for this so that I could figure out this. So I need a column for that. I'll need a column for not n. Once I know not n and not m, I will be able to figure out not m implies not n. That'll be great. That'll be great. And then I'm supposed to figure out something with this whole thing, right? Because before I can figure out how this pink statement implies this statement over here, I'll need to know what this is going to be. Now, here's the good thing. So to figure this out, I'll need a not m column. Well, I already got one, so I won't need to worry about that. I'll need an n column. Well, I already have that, so I don't need to make a new column for that. But I do need to make a new column for not m and n. Ta-ding! So once I have a column for this guy, this pink guy, and once I have a column for this green guy, I can go ahead and figure out the column for this thing implying this thing. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, I don't want you to stress about it too much because, like I said, I'm always going to give you guys this whole top row filled in and this all filled in. But that's where these columns and rows are coming from. We're just looking at each piece and trying to figure out what we're going to need to get the compound statements figured out. So in the next video, we're going to actually go ahead and fill this in. And like I said, I don't want you to stress too much about this particular portion, but if you do want to understand it better, feel free to watch this video again. If not, just move on to the next video where we actually fill this in and use it to get the job done.